Let me open a joint public hearing, City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Pearland for Monday, November the 16th, 2020, and it is at least 6:30. And moving into our agenda, I have just called it to order, and we're now roll calling with the City Council certification of quorum, and our Mayor Pro Tem has just certified quorum for tonight. And moving to item number 3, which is roll call for the Planning and Zoning Commission and certification of quorum. Madam Chairman.
Mayor, we have a quorum for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
Okay. Moving to item number 4, I'm sorry. Introduction of the agenda and the format of hearing, and I'll ask Martin if he just pick this up from staff position.
Thank you, Mayor Reed. So on for tonight's joint public hearing, we will have a call to order, followed by a staff report. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to present their case. Then we'll have comments in either support or opposition to, where the speakers will be called on by name. At that point, they'll have 3 minutes to record their statements. Then we will have council, commission, and staff discussion, followed by adjournment of the item. On tonight's agenda, the tentative first and second readings by City Council for this zone change case will be December 7th and December 14th, respectively. As mentioned, we do have one zone case on for tonight. That is for the Southern Trails Plan Development Amendment, which is generally located at the 11,900 block of Broadway Street. I hand it back to you, Mayor Reed.
Yes, all right. With that information in the record, let's move to item number 5, which is the purpose of the hearing for the night, for number 1. And I'll ask the chairman of the Planning Commission to read into the record the purpose of the hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 5, sorry. Purpose of the hearing is a request by Oanh Nguyen, Windrose Land Service applicant, on behalf of Ryan Seeley, NAI Partners representing Ble Dodd Investments owner, for approval of an amendment to the Southern Trails Plan Development District?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Southern Trails.
Southern Trails, a master plan district comprised of a single-family residential development and 3 non-residential out parcels to allow restaurant uses with drive-through service within 285 feet of Broadway Street. It's on approximately 9.28 acres of land. The general location is 11,900 block of Broadway. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, moving in our agenda to item number 6. Application information and case summary. Item A is staff report.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Mohammed Barimo with the staff here, city staff. This is a request for approval of an amendment to the Southern Trails Plan Development District to allow restaurant uses with drive-through service within 285 feet of Broadway Street on approximately 9.2 acres of land located at the southwest corner of Broadway Street and Shadow Creek High School Road. The 9.2 acre property is the remaining undeveloped portion of the 522.8 acre Southern Trail Plan development that was established back in 2004 as a master planned single-family residential community, including 3 non-residential out parcels. The PD regulations have been amended at least 3 times in the past. The last one was approved back in February of this year, as you recall, and was to reflect a zoning change from for the 9.2 acre that is located at the southwest corner of Broadway Street and Shadow Creek High School Road from church or institutional use to general business district with modified land use regulations. At that time, the owner of the subject property envisioned to develop the property into 2 phases, including the construction of approximately 33,000 square foot gymnastic and tumbling facility at the southern portion of the property as the first phase, and the future development of office or retail development along the frontage of the property in the second phase. The purpose of this amendment now is to expand the list of approved uses to include restaurant uses with drive-through service for the out parcel that is located in front of the gymnastic facility, and it's roughly within 440 feet by 285 feet from Broadway Street. And this particular use was excluded from the PD based on staff recommendations when the zoning change was approved back in February. The applicant has noted that changes in the retail market since this amendment was approved, the one back in February, and the addition of restaurant uses with drive-through has become necessary to ensure the viability of the restaurant based on the ongoing global pandemic that's going on here. Staff has received 2 emails of opposition from 2 residents of the community out of the 1,600-ish mailed notices. If you move to the next slide, Martin, this is a location map, and it shows the 9.2 acre site located at the southwest corner of Broadway Street, Shadow Creek High School Road. The subject property has an underlying zoning of general business with restricted land uses. Again, the restrictions came into play back when this property was changed from church institutional use to general business. This slide here shows the entire plan development for the Southern Trails. Again, as I said, it was established back in 2004. The subject site is currently undeveloped. This is kind of a closer look at the subject property. Again, the property is abutted by a retail business to the east and a zone general business with residential subdivision to the north and west, as well as a high school to the south. Next slide. This is the future land use plan, and it shows the property designated as low density residential, which is intended to accommodate single family detached dwelling units. Next slide. This is the proposed design plan that was presented by the applicant, and it reflects development of a retail building with associated parking along the frontage of Broadway Street, and it's in front of the future gymnastic and tumbling facility. Next slide. That's street view, and it's looking directly south towards the subject property. Next slide. This is the conformity matrix, and it shows that the proposed use or zoning, I should say that, is inconsistent with the low density future land use plan designation. However, it meets, it's consistent with the thoroughfare plan, the property is platted, and utilities are available to the subject property. Next slide. This is the approval criteria for zone changes and plan development amendments, and you can see that this request is consistent with almost all of these criteria, with the exception of the future land use designation. Next slide. This is the staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval for this amendment, considering the limited scope and nature of this request. It's only restaurant with drive-through. Restaurants without drive-through are permitted as of today on the subject side. They are intending to just add the drive-through services. And I think that concludes staff report. Thank you, Martin. Back to you, Mayor.
Good. That was a good report, I'll tell you. It was very comprehensive.
I really appreciate that, Mayor. Thank you.
That information in the record. Let's move to item B, which let our Mayor Pro Tem introduce our applicant for his presentation.
Mayor, I think we just had the presentation. We're, I guess, the staff wrap up item C. Does staff have anything to
Not at this time.
add?
Excuse me, if I could, this is Lawrence over in legal. I wanted to say that I believe at least one of the people who signed up to speak is actually on behalf of the developer or the applicant, or at least I thought, Mr. Jeffrey Butte. I think he signed up as a person speaking for or against, but he's actually an applicant, so he could speak under item 6B of the agenda.
Yes, good evening. This is Jeff Butte with Windrose Land Services. I just wanted to be available for any questions if any members of the council or planning commission any questions, and I believe that Julie Ward, representing NAI Partners, will also be available. That was the plan. So if there's any questions, we are available and here. Thank you.
Mayor, those are only two people I had signed up to speak on this item, but I guess we should still ask if there's anyone wishing to speak for or against it out there.
Okay, that information in the record. Let's move to item C, which will give opportunity for the staff to do a wrap up on this item.
Martin, anything to add?
I don't have anything additional to add on this. I'm glad that Jeff Butte and Ms. Ward are here. Should there be any additional questions from council or the planning commission later on, that we can have them address. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that input. Moving to item number 7, persons who wish to speak for or against the proposed request. Our Mayor Pro Tem will have a list.
Mayor, the only people that signed up to speak on this particular item are representing the applicant. No one signed up to speak against it. And those that signed up to speak for it have already spoken, and they're available to answer questions of council or planning.
Okay, that's good. That information record. Let's move to item number 8 in our agenda then, which provides an opportunity for the City Council, the Planning Commission, and the staff to develop further conversation and the development about this particular issue. And starting with the City Council, I'll ask Councilmember Alondo, do you have any comments or questions or comments?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple. I was less in favor of this last time, just because of the the change being made to what was originally suggested. But with the extended letter that was sent out to a significant number of people in the community, and the relatively muted response that came back, I think I would be more inclined to move forward with this. My only concern is the high school. The high school the high school set up without knowing that this was going to be there, and set up their landscaping accordingly, and thinking that this was zoned for a church. And so I guess I would just ask Martin maybe what the option would be in terms of requiring a little bit more landscaping on the access road to the high school, and maybe on where this fronts onto Broadway as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Orlando. I spoke with a representative from Alvin ISD. They will have an additional opportunity to review and have any additional changes needed for that landscaping when they're meeting and discussing with the applicant and owner. As they already have an agreement in place on the allowed access. So in speaking with the representative for Alvin ISD, they did say that they were all right with the proposal for the restaurant. They just wish that the plan would have the drive-through as far away, so that way they had an adequate stacking away from the drive aisle, or for the driveway for the high school.
Gotcha. And is that something that requires any action on our part to codify, or do we feel comfortable that that can be resolved without any council action?
On review of the proposed site plan, it actually, with the way that it's laid out, it provides an amount of stacking that is away by having the drive-through on the east side instead of the west side. It actually allows the stacking to be more interior rather than having it. If the window is along the west side, then that stacking potentially would back up onto or directly into the drive aisle,
right?
The driveway. So I think that based on what was shown in the previous slide with the drive aisle, or with the drive-through on the east side, it's actually benefiting the property more, because that stacking would have to take place interior to the lot instead of forcing it onto the Shadow Creek driveway. So I think that either way, it is something that will be taken care of during site plan review.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Member Orlando, if you'd like to ensure that the aisle is where it's located on the site plan, or that there's enhanced landscaping, those are both things that you can dictate by the amendment of the PUD. If you're comfortable with the developer and the school district working it out with their private property rights, you can leave it to them to do so with their agreements. But if you want to make sure that you dictate the landscaping of the other, that is something that you can make sure is included in the PUD. It's not something you would normally have because you can't do contract zoning, but the PD actually gives you that flexibility to make that those requirements.
Gotcha. I appreciate that context. And I guess I would just home in on one of the points you made about the increased landscape buffering. Does the staff have a thought? I know this wasn't a suggested amendment in the proposal, but just in terms of in terms of this, this is Shadow Creek High School is a really quality development. It's a great place. A lot of people come there not just to go to school, but for events and everything, or hopefully they will be again after the pandemic. But what is what is recommended in order to in terms of our beautification efforts along this corridor? What makes sense here in terms of increased landscape requirement?
First, I'm not a planner, so of course I should probably let Martin go first. But I would say that while you can have some control over this, or absolute control over this, because it is a PUD, the driveway is on the Shadow Creek Ranch the Shadow Creek High School property. So while you're welcome to make the recommendations for the regulations, it is a little bit peculiar to force it onto somebody else's property.
Gotcha.
So,
no, good point.
Okay. I'm not exactly sure where you're looking to put that. I don't know which enhanced landscaping you want, so it's difficult for me to say where to propose the regulation.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll keep looking at this map, and I'm good for now, Mayor. Thank you, Lawrence.
Councilmember Little.
Martin, why was the applicant originally told to exclude this item from the application? I think one of the applicants said that they originally were told on their application I guess when they put the gymnastic facility there, or at some time, I don't know exactly what he's referring to, but why would they be told that?
Councilmember Little, based on my recollection, when we took this late last year, early this year, our recommendation to the property owner was to request just the changes that they needed in order to get the property into their use. At that time, it wasn't, at that time, the drive-through restaurant wasn't a use that they were needing, which was something that we, we didn't want to take too many things to council for their approval. So that's typically our response when we have someone that's looking for a plan development amendment, is to ask for the bare minimum of things that they need in order to make their project work, not to ask for every single possible use and then cherry pick those that actually do get approved.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess my next question would be for either Julie or Jeff. Do you have any idea what fast food chain you're expecting to go in this location?
I'd like to give Julie, this is Jeff Boutte with Windrose. If Julie Ward was able to log on, I'd like to give her a chance to answer that. And if not, I can give some sort of general indication. So it doesn't.
Hi. Sorry, I was waiting to be unmuted. This is Julie Ward. I thank you all for listening to this and looking at this for your consideration. Right now, I believe when the initial request went through, Partners Development did not have this land under contract, and it was really just to get it more in line with the gymnastics facility. And so since we have been looking at this product or this project, and also since the pandemic has impacted retail in a drastic way, we are requesting for these drive-throughs. Currently, we do have a boutique coffee user who is interested in the site and does need a drive-through. And then there are sandwich shops that have shown interest. Right now, nearly every user that is coming to us is requesting a drive-through, and it's something that we have not committed until after we get everyone's approval, if that be the case.
Okay, I was just curious if you already had someone that had committed, had a letter of intent. Obviously, a Chick-fil-A would generate a lot more drive-through traffic and possibly overflow out into the driveway leading up to Shadow Creek High School, more so than would probably a deli or a sandwich shop. Okay, all right, thank you very much. That's all, Mayor.
Moving to Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't really have many issues with this, I think, in the beginning, and I think the addition of a drive-through is a pretty critical aspect of any type of QSR these days. So I've got nothing really to add, no further questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I have concerns on the side of the building that the drive-through is going to be on, just because of the traffic that could back up and create issues on the entrance into the high school. I also wanted to know on, so there's not going to be a direct line across from this development to the roadway to the high school, or am I looking at that incorrect?
You are correct. There will not be a direct access in line with Starbucks driveway. This location was previously agreed to by Alvin ISD. And so the one that we are showing further south of the development is what is allowed. And to address some of your concerns about the location of the drive-through, we have shown this to a representative of Alvin ISD, and we are actually looking to reconfigure this drive-through, though it would be in the same location, to best suit their needs in terms of traffic flow and directing majority of the traffic directly to Broadway to stay off of the Shadow Creek High School access easement.
Okay. Okay. And then my next question is for staff. You had said that typically you just try to get the bare basics over to council when they're trying to make any kind of amendment to the PD, but how much extra did it cost the developer to actually have to come back to us to request this now at this time period, opposed to doing it early on with the first PD amendment?
The cost incurred by the developer is the standard application fee, which, if I remember correctly, is $1,025.
Okay. I'm just wondering if it doesn't make sense that we try to do some of that up front, opposed to having the developers have to pay an additional cost to come back to get this amendment to the PD, when they could have done it up front if they knew that that was something that they were going to want.
Councilman Moore, we would have, if it would have been something that would have been discussed and would have been brought to staff, of course, we would have said, we would have taken however many uses needed. At that time, it was just to get the property changed from the church use to the general business zoning district. So it wasn't necessarily that, we were saying one thing and one thing only. It was, we take the request that is given to us.
Sure. And I don't think that they knew that they needed a drive-through back then at that time period. So just the way that you said it just kind of sounded like, okay, well, we are only taking the bare minimum we need to get this amendment done so you can get started, but then we're going to make you come back and do more. So I understand that in this case that probably they did not request the drive-through at that time. So that's fine.
And if that was the interpretation, I do apologize. That wasn't exactly what I was meaning. It's just, we take the application that's given to us.
Yeah, thank you.
And our next item is item Member Owens.
Yes, sir. On the access through that, it comes off of Broadway and comes down to Shadow Creek area there into the school entrance, and you got a esplanade, then you got a divide in the esplanade, and it come on down from there, and you turn into the right to go into this facility. Is that correct?
Councilmember Owens, it is a divided road, and then that road comes together just after the Starbucks access on the east side. And then what's shown on the screen is the proposed agreement between the developer and Alvin ISD for the new placement of their driveway.
Okay, so this is going to be more than a development for the eating place, or what?
Councilmember Owens, I don't think I follow your question.
Well, I see the shaded area on there. Is that one facility there, or is it going to be more retail, or is it more than that one?
I think I'll let Ms. Ward answer the number of tenants that will be located in the retail space.
Okay, so because it looks like it's got a lot of parking places in front of it.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Kathy.
We do anticipate anywhere between 20 and 24,000 square feet of inline space. So it would be more of a typical inline building with multiple users. We're thinking it could be anywhere between 6 and 8.
All right, so you've only got the one access to get in through that in that one facility in that area there. You only have one access for it, right?
The second access is directly onto Broadway Street, all the way on the west-hand side of the development.
Okay. I guess one of the things when we passed the information on the lighting, there's no exposure or will be no exposure to any of the residents behind these facilities, right?
That is correct, sir. We will abide by all of the lighting requirements within the PUD as well as the city. So we do anticipate there will be no bleed onto the residential homes right there.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
That information in the record. Let's move to the Planning Commission. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Fortes, any questions or comments?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I just wanted a point of clarification. That drawing there, I believe her name's Julie with NAI. I believe she said that they renegotiated. So is what we're looking at not going to be the final?
You know, we are early in the stages. This is really just our, I want to say first attempt, but it's probably like our 6th attempt at how we can develop this site. This is the project that we do anticipate going forward with in the vast majority. The drive-through was, as we spoke with Alvin ISD, the drive-through was reconfigured slightly to extend traffic, to direct traffic towards Broadway. Conceptually, this is the project that we anticipate to build. Will there be minor tweaks here and there? More than likely, as we develop it, yes, there will be tweaks in the process.
Thank you. I just wish they would have allowed an exit there to align with the other driveway. You know, like we have with a lot of other cross-access agreements that we have with other commercial entities throughout town. That was it. I just wanted to make sure that what we were talking about, what we're looking at is truly, in fact, what we'll be voting on later. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Henricks? Questions or comments?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Lainey. I have a question for the developer. What all is being proposed to go into the retail center besides just the drive-through?
Sure. So we do have a boutique coffee user that is interested in going here. We also have a dry cleaner who has expressed interest. We have other medical office users that we've been talking to, as well as like a title company, an office use here as well. So right now, that's what we're working with. We would like to see more local uses to go within this development, but leasing has been quite slow, as you can imagine, in the retail world right now.
So I heard mention of a gymnastics gym. Is there a gym facility going in here, or are we just referencing the one that's next door?
So the portion of the 9 acres that I am proposing a development on is really just the initial, 2.6 acres against Broadway Street. There is the remainder of the property south of this development, and it is my understanding that that owner is a gymnastics facility owner in other locations and does have the anticipation of doing that in this location as well.
Okay, thank you so much for your clarification.
Commissioner Boswell, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Okay, Commissioner Earls?
No, ma'am, I have nothing. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Dansby?
No, not at this time. I agree with the buffer discussion. That's the only thing that's been discussed with me directly, was that some concern about the drive-through buffer between them and Shadow Creek High School Drive. But if the developer and Alvin ISD are working that out, I'm going to put faith in their proposals to satisfy each other's requirements. In a multi-use retail center like this, you get a lot of users, and I know that we won't get fast food restaurants. We'll get some good high-end users, and I appreciate the effort that the developer has in making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. I only had a couple of comments. Julie, I called it Southern Trails, and it said Southern Trails on one spot and Southern Tales on the other. Just for the record, what is the name of the center?
The name of, so Southern Trails is the neighborhood with the PUD.
Thank you. I felt like it probably was. I just wanted to make sure. And Martin, I didn't see the two emails staff said that they received against this. I didn't see them in the agenda packet or anything. If is that something we need to worry about, or the content of those?
Mohammed, if you could provide some insight on those emails.
Absolutely. Yes. So we have received two letters, and they just came in. Two emails just came in today. And one of them was from a resident that lives on the west side of Kingsley. So it's the far west side of the PD. The other one was somewhere not very far enough from this site. And they both expressed their concern about traffic, and they indicated there are multiple businesses with drive-through in the area, and so they do not like to see more of them here. I think that was generally the concern that were mentioned in their emails.
Thank you, Mohammed. That's just kind of what I wanted to know, what their concern was with the property. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. That's all, Mayor, from Planning and Zoning.
Okay, thank you. Moving to staff discussion. Wrap up.
Thank you, Mayor Reed. I think most of the items that we would have wrapped up on were discussed within the presentation or within the discussion. So I have no further wrap up to provide. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Martin, if you would allow me, just wanted to bring that along the buffer on the west side on the east side of property adjacent to Shadow Creek High School. We have been able to incorporate that requirement for corridor overlay district landscaping requirements along that buffer. So it's already been incorporated in the third amendment that was approved back in February. So if this was to develop, if this side was to develop, they would be complying with the corridor overlay district landscape requirements along that side in that buffer. Thank you.
Hi, I'm sorry, Mayor. Planning and Zoning has a couple more comments. Commissioner Hendricks?
Oh, no, I asked the questions. Thank you, Lainey.
All right. Commissioner Fortes, did you have something?
Yes, ma'am. And it's really for staff, just an understanding. A large part of the materials we received were all the addresses, and I think of everyone that lives in Southern Trails. I thought that we weren't doing that on amendments. We were only doing the 200-foot rule. I understand when it incorporates a PD that we did in the past. I thought we were moving away from that. Is that my understanding, or is that incorrect? I'm taking it.
Thank you, Commissioner Fuertes. We took an ordinance to City Council to do an alternative notice. Typically, when we have property that lies within a PUD, we have to notify everyone that is within 200 feet and within the planned development, which is why we saw such a large number of not adjacent property owners, but notified property owners for this zone change request. When we took that alternative notice, council requested that we notify everyone that was within the planned development instead of utilizing the alternative. So that is where staff was directed to send out to everyone.
Thank you for that.
More discussions from planning and zoning?
Mayor, this is Councilmember Hernandez. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. This is for staff, just kind of loosely related to this, kind of to another piece of feedback that I received on the notices, just for some clarification. If there is a piece of land that is not developed and has an actual address, but it is obviously owned by someone, how is the information being pulled for those records? Is that from the county, or how are we pulling the notice addresses for non-addressed pieces of land?
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez. So we utilize whatever the appraisal district says. So whatever information is tied to the parcel, not necessarily to the address, is how we notify people, or how we notify property owners of applications. So when you go on to the appraisal district, you can click on any number of parcels and it will provide property owner information for those pieces of land. Occasionally it sends it to a tax office or to the homeowners association, or if someone has chosen to utilize one of the ways of blanking out their information or providing additional privacy for themselves, then we wouldn't have the ability to notify them because that's the system that we utilize is based off of the information that the appraisal district has.
Okay, and which just curious, which department is responsible for that? Is that community development or city secretary? Who's pulling those addresses?
The addresses are updated through our mapping system, and then community development pulls those addresses off of the interactive map. Okay, and how? I guess I can do follow up on that. That's enough for now. I'll follow up offline. I appreciate that, Martin. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That's all.
Any other question or comment by our two organizations? A joint public hearing is a mechanism for us in the beginning of a development to discuss it in more detail. And obviously, as this thing progresses, we'll hear it in other public hearings later as it becomes more moving toward approval. Approval is not available tonight. That information in the record. Let's move to item number 6, which is adjournment, which I shall do.